Totally Football Show, European edition. Today, huge random midweek matchups. It must be the Champions League. 5 months on from Wembley, Real Madrid and Dortmund together again. Barcelona and Bayern Munich, Lewandowski versus Kane. Also today, PS I Love You as PSG take on PSV and all the other key matchups, plus counting down to the Clásico and the Derby d'Italia, the return of the Las Palmas 11 and Gavi 2, and much more in this Totally Football Show. Tuesday, 22nd of October, I make it, listener. For us, at least, and by us, yes, I mean Julien Laurens.
Yes.
Boom. All right,
Bonjour.
Jules.
Bonjour.
And how about a bit of James Horncastle in your ear?
Yeah.
There you go. Also joining us, Paul Ballús. He hates cricket, listener.
Bon dia, how are you? I don't enjoy cricket. I mean, I do respect you for liking cricket, but don't try to find me in a cricket game if I'm lost at some point.
I don't like cricket. I hate it.
Nice reference.
Yeah,
James, love
nice.
that. Jules, you're the biggest cricket lover in this room.
Yes, probably. No, Horny likes it too.
Yeah, but not the way you do, I think.
Yeah, I go to watch games, matches.
Yeah, you just love sport, don't you?
I love sport.
Sport in all its forms.
I try. Yeah.
No greater distillation of the human experience.
I mean, the NBA is back tonight, for example,
NBA,
on Tuesday, in the night of Tuesday to Wednesday. So, it's
Are you working for TNT on that? Are you doing the NBA Europe?
The NBA Paris game in January with Victor
yeah.
Wembanyama, of course, and San Antonio Spurs. Wow. Yeah, 23rd and 25th of January, which will be on TNT Sports.
Right, that's magnificent.
We'll also have an NBA Fantasy League if you want, listeners, which you can.
I'm going to join you, definitely.
They can check on my social media. I'll put the code in there.
Is there an NBA Fantasy podcast that you're on as well?
Soon. It's in motion.
Okay. Yeah. Seb Stafford-Bloor will be joining us as well a little bit later on, because in the sport of football, it's a mighty week.
Yeah.
A mighty week, particularly with German sides taking on Spanish sides and really key matches. In fact, if you look through the week, even beyond the Champions League stuff, there's just great games every night. Tuesday, PSG against PSV, and we also got Real Madrid Dortmund. It's going to be quite a choice, I would say, which to watch. Wednesday, luckily, Brest against Leverkusen, which is a game I'm really interested in. No, Jules, because they won their first two games, etc.
That's true.
Yep.
2-2 for Brest.
Yeah. They're going to get my support. Barcelona taking on Bayern afterwards, or you could go for Leipzig-Liverpool.
Yes.
The whole Klopp angle on that. Thursday, you can't say finer than a bit of Europa League with Fenerbahce. Mr. Jose Mourinho taking on Man United.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, tune in for the post-game press conference at least.
He drew at the weekend, didn't he?
He did. They're now 8 points behind Gala.
Yeah.
It's somebody's fault, but almost certainly not his. I'm guessing. Friday, there's loads of games. You got some games in Spain, haven't you? Paul?
Yeah. I'm actually going to be going to the Barcelona game against Bayern.
Okay. I was thinking about the Friday games, but we'll come on to Barca Bayern very sure. Yeah, there's Espanyol against Sevilla, big game at the wrong end of the table.
Game.
In Italy, Torino, Como, but you don't care about those.
Well, it depends who's at the Como game, doesn't it?
Ooh, who might be at the Como game?
Well, Hugh Grant was there this weekend.
Was he?
Andrew Garfield.
No way. There's Elmo there as well. Maybe he'll be there for Torino Como.
Yeah.
That's huge.
But Sunday.
Well, Saturday, then you got the Clásico in Spain.
Yeah, exactly.
What an insane week. And then on Sunday, you're looking forward to Inter Juventus, Jules. Is that right?
And Marseille PSG and Arsenal Liverpool.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
So it's a hell of a week.
It's just, incredible.
Why do they do this?
I don't know.
Because it's often like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have 2 or 3 blockbuster weekends every season, where all the leagues have their main game on the same day, pretty much.
They tell us that the 5 leagues, their computer algorithm is completely random and not at all aligned with one another.
And yet.
Skynet is real.
Wow.
I think that they probably do it to allow Julian to go to cricket games in other weeks.
Maybe so, actually. It is cricket season right now, so that makes a lot of sense. It's going to be tough to do a moment of the week next weekend, but what have you come up with this time around, Paul Ballús?
Yeah, I'm going to go. I mean, the obvious one for me is to go for Gavi. Gavi came back for Barcelona after 11 months. It was like an amazing atmosphere in Montjuic. Everyone was craving for this moment. He received just a standing ovation when he jump in just to go and warm up. So that was the state of desperation that Barcelona fans had just to see Gavi again. So that was a really cool moment. Then he came in the place of Pedri, and Pedri gave him the captain's armband, which was a really nice moment. And yeah, just the ovation, the standing ovation that we could hear in Montjuic was sort of emotional. I would also highlight in a more funny note, just the campaign that Celta de Vigo did ahead of the Real Madrid game, because they basically invited Florentino Perez just to take a picture with the only trophy that he will never have, and that Celta de Vigo does have, which is the Intertoto Cup. I'm sure that you remember.
Of course.
Celta de Vigo won the Intertoto Cup in the year 2000, if I'm not wrong.
Wow. Who did they beat, Paul?
Wow, you have killed me now here.
Well, no, let's look it up. We have
Strasbourg won the Intertoto Cup.
Strasbourg won the Intertoto Cup. Intertoto Cup. What a tournament that
Bologna
was.
reached the final of that as well. Around that time, although they didn't play against Celta Vigo.
Right. I'm just looking up a list of winners, Paul. But yeah. And how did Florentino Perez respond to this invitation?
He didn't attend, basically. He didn't go. It was more of a marketing thing that Celta de Vigo fans did. They did put like the Intertoto trophy like in the streets of Vigo for any fans attending to the game, just if they want to pop out and just go there and take a picture. Some of them did, and it was a nice marketing campaign. And it was a fine approach to the game that Celta de Vigo lost, but they did really play well.
Excellent. I've been looking at the Wikipedia page for Intertoto Cup, and I was so confused now. There seem to be multiple winners per year. How is that possible? It says 2006, 2008 outright winners. 2006 were Newcastle United, but then you got joint winners. You got another you got another 10 teams listed as joint winners.
Well, it was to qualify, wasn't it?
It was the cup to get into the cups.
Yeah. It was to qualify for Europe.
So, for example, in 1997, you had 3 winners: Bastia, Lyon, and Auxerre. A French 1-2-3.
Wow! What a time to be alive in French football.
Best league in the world.
I thought I knew what the Intertoto Cup was, but I've got no idea whatsoever.
And people think today's format's confusing.
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad. Yeah.
I can't find Celta Vigo here at all, Paul.
Yeah, in the year 2000, I think that they won the trophy alongside Udinese.
Yeah, it did. You're right. And
Stuttgart.
Yeah. Okay. Perugia won it in 2003.
Didn't they play as well in July or something? It was like super early in the season, and it was weird. Really weird.
Magnificent.
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
That's all we need.
We need more football.
Next time we have one of those quiet weeks, we'll do a deep dive on the Intertoto Cup. Who was it? How was it? Why was it?
Who was Toto?
Who was Toto? And of course, listener, you'll be thinking, enough of the Intertoto Cup, what about the Intertotally Cup? That's the real competition that we're all looking forward to returning.
Yes.
I got a little bit distracted by that. Paul, thank you so much.
No problem.
So much for that. Loads to talk about with you with La Liga, not least Monday night's big action as Valencia took on Las Palmas with ramifications there. But James, your moment of the week or week?
Well, there's a cult hero in Serie A. I mean, there are many, but remember the flamingo mascot at Cagliari, Sully, who, after a defeat earlier in the season, he went under the curva.
With the players.
Consecutive weeks.
Yeah. And, he had this incredible mascot with this huge flamingo bobblehead, sort of solemnly looking down.
Bowed in shame.
Yeah, bowed in shame. But this time he was there celebrating in Sardinia because Cagliari came back from behind to beat Torino 3-2. So he was there jumping up and down in front of the ultras, super happy. His head almost came off, which is great to see.
Does he stand on one leg during games? I'd like to see that.
Does he migrate at some
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was my moment of the weekend. I mean, I mentioned Hugh Grant.
It's a quiet weekend then in Serie A, no?
Well, did you see Reteghi's goal?
I did.
Reteghi's goal is special.
It's so one-on-one with the keeper, and from quite a short distance between him and the goal, he manages to chip the keeper.
That's nice.
Beautiful.
But also the pass for it as well.
And the mistake that led to it, which is terrible. But some nice
Cagliari, with Davide Nicola.
Yeah.
Currently,
They had
3
to-
points outside the relegation.
But they
zone.
had to lose all of their games
First.
to be in relegation
To
trouble.
activate Nicola mode, yeah.
Activate Nicola. And they drew at Juve, didn't they?
Huh?
And then they won against Torino. So
Magnificent. Jules, what's going on in France?
So also because we didn't have a show last week because it's international break, we still don't know why we don't do a show in international break. But so I've got one moment of the weekend for last week, the weekend before last one, which was I was at weekend with Mrs. Laurens, obviously, as you do in, in Ibiza.
Oh yeah.
Not far from Port. And who bumped into me? Xabi Alonso.
Oh.
At breakfast. I was like, Xabi. So we had a nice chai. It was lovely. So that's my moment of the weekend from...
Well, you can't just say that, Jules. What happened?
No, we just...
What was his breakfast? What did you talk about?
He had a very healthy breakfast. So did I. It's his very healthy resort in Ibiza.
What resort was it?
Am I allowed to say?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we were at Six Senses, which is in the north of the island. Yeah, which was lovely. The weather was great, Paul. I can see why you'd say to move back to Spain.
Did you see dead people?
I didn't see dead people, but I didn't see many clouds either because it was super nice and super sunny.
But back to your breakfast.
Xabi Alonso. And so we saw him at breakfast like we were there 3 days, every day pretty much, and he said how cool he was for basically welcoming the international break, so they could have some days off for the players or who were not with their national teams or like him, so he could go away with the family and stuff.
That's
so
nice.
It was lovely.
Did you sit with him, or was it more like you getting breakfast cereal at the same time at the cereal bar?
No, we kind of because we bumped into each other, we kind of had a little chat, and Mrs. L chipped in as well, which is lovely. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so it was lovely.
Amazing.
This did not appear on Jules' social though. I
respect
he'll do a photo.
I bet it's on Xabi Alonso's social.
Probably. Then I've got a midweek moment of the midweek, which is Paul Pogba, my brother. Of course, it was lovely to see him smiling and happy. And whether he stays at Juve or stays in Italy or not, it's good that he can be playing football soon. And my moment of the weekend was Saturday night of this weekend. Seni Mayulu, 18-year-old Paris born and bred PSG midfielder, attacking midfielder, scoring his first goal for the club in Ligue 1 as well, and setting up PSG for their 4-1 win against Strasbourg.
All right. Wow. Talk about that a little bit later on, eh?
Yeah.
Let's start. Let's start with you, Paul, and La Liga.
Go for it.
Woo. Paul, big week in Spain. Big week for Spanish clubs in Europe, as we were touching on before, with Real against Dortmund, that Wembley rematch. Atletico taking on Lille, who beat Real Madrid last time out. Girona taking on Slovan Bratislava. And, perhaps even more excitingly, Barcelona against their bête noire, Bayern. So this is Hansi versus his old side. It's Lewandowski against his old side, but it's more than anything, I guess, for the Catalans. Barcelona against the team that gave them their biggest ever humiliation. How are they feeling?
Exactly. I guess that like, you know how to say in Spanish, bête noire, right?
Bestia Negra.
Bestia Negra. Really good.
Unbelievable.
Really good.
In
Because
Catalan?
all the papers, Bestia Negra.
Oh.
Same word. Yeah. Well, you speak Catalan as well.
In French?
Bête noire.
In Italian, James.
Bestia Nera.
There you go.
Bestia Negra. Okay.
English bogey team.
Buggy.
All right. Anyway, yes. So that 8-2, and then you got
that 8-2.
the 4 matches since in the group stages. Barcelona getting beaten 6-0 on aggregate and then 5-0 on aggregate. So is this time going to be different, do you think?
I think that it has a chance to be different. I've been checking. Over the last 30 years, Barcelona have played 15 times against Bayern, and Bayern won 11 of them. Barcelona just won 2. So that tells you a lot about the story between those two teams in the competition. And as you were saying, it's sort of funny that the manager that sort of traumatized Barcelona in the competition, because Barcelona are sort of going through this sort of trauma now when they go to the Champions League. Now he's at Barcelona, and now he's trying to heal the wounds, or just to heal all the pain that the fans have suffered from that. And I think that they are on the right track, and fans have reasons to be hopeful because all the signs that they showed in La Liga are really, really good. There's an excitement inside the dressing room and outside. I would say that the boost between the fans is sort of really good. Flick has added calm leadership. I think that, as we were discussing weeks ago, he's not a part of the entorno. He's not a part of the atmosphere, of the Catalan toxicity that we have around here. And he just doesn't know about this, and he just acts naturally. He's not obsessed with it in a way that Xavi probably was. And that's done a big favor to the club. It's a big breath of fresh air. Barcelona are really hopeful for this week coming, that is seen as a sort of like test the temperature of where this Barcelona is at the minute, because they play against Bayern on Wednesday and then they have the Clásico on the weekend, the biggest 2 games of the season so far. And as good as Flick's team has looked this season, there's a feeling that those games are going to tell you if Barcelona are sort of ready for something more.
Well, you were at Montjuic this weekend for the 5-1 win against Sevilla. Barcelona very much continuing where they left off before the international break. What do you make of where they are right now?
I would say that they are in a position just to challenge themselves and just to play against the likes of Bayern and Real Madrid. I think that Bayern, for what I've seen, they play a bit like Barcelona, just a bit careless, if you want to call it that way, and just really risky, pressing really hard. So that might be a game full of goals, what we see on Wednesday. But I think that it's a good moment for Barcelona, because Real Madrid are always going to be Real Madrid, but they are not going through the best moment of their season. And I think that it's going to be good for them just to try to have this challenge and just to test them, because the players are full of confidence. They really trust themselves. I think that everyone is looking for it and is quite excited. Knowing that, of course, they play against Bayern Munich first, and it's a team that has punished Barcelona so many times in the past. But why not? It can be different.
Indeed. Real Madrid have got a big game before the Clásico as well. They take on Borussia Dortmund on Tuesday, in, of course, a repeat of this summer's final at Wembley, in which, Paul, they came out winners, as they always seem to do in the Champions League. But it could have been so very, very different, though, that game.
Yeah, it could have been different, but it's a bit of the story of the life in Real Madrid. They have these wake-up calls in big games, but they just realize where they are and they win. That's basically what they do. It's going to be a really interesting one. Again, as I was saying, I think that Real Madrid are not playing really, really well. They struggled a bit against Celta. They were lucky, in my opinion, to get the win. It was Kylian Mbappe brilliant for the first goal, and then Modric and Vinicius for the second one. But Celta, as I think that we spoke about them in previous week of this podcast, they are a really fun team to watch. Really, really fun team, full of young players. They have a coach which is from Galicia as well, huge Celta fan, and they have this sort of buzz around the club which is really, really good. And they put Real Madrid into big troubles. Real Madrid, Ancelotti did a sort of tactical switch. He played with the back three, with Aurelian Tchouameni as a centre back, and it's going to be interesting to see if they repeat that against Borussia Dortmund. I guess that they did that because they are going to miss Dani Carvajal for the rest of the season, so they want to compensate for the lack of defensive power that they lose without them. Let's see what they do. But I think that Real Madrid still have to figure things out, knowing that with the amount of firepower that they have up front, they can win games just for fun, basically.
Dani Carvajal, who was such a key factor in the match, he turning that game around, or taking control of that game against Dortmund last time out. Toni Kroos, the other big absentee with respect to the lineups at Wembley. But as you say, still there, Luka Modric, who came on in the game against Celta Vigo and became the oldest player ever, taking French Puskás's record, to play for Real Madrid and contributing an assist for was it the second goal he assisted?
Yeah. He was the winner, basically.
Yeah.
And he was great. I mean, that he proved to everyone that he's not at Real Madrid because of he's just there because he earned that on the pitch. I think that last season he was not a starter, and he's not a player who likes to be a sub. He doesn't enjoy it in sort of the dressing room. He's not a happy man. But whenever he's on the pitch, he adds a lot of value to Real Madrid. And without Toni Kroos, they've lost a lot of passing and a lot of game understanding. And I think that Modric is much more needed now in that regard. He might not be able to play 90 minutes every week or in every game. But if Real Madrid find this sort of best version of him, this is going to be a huge help for them.
Magnificent. Tuesday's game may well have been played by the time you hear this, listener. We're a little bit late with our pre-Champions League coverage this week. But the Clásico very much still to look forward to. And it sounds like, Paul, you make Barcelona slight favourites.
I don't know if we can dare to say that, because the Clásico is like a parallel universe to the form that you see every team in. But the fact that you play in the Santiago Bernabéu, I think that you have to give Real Madrid like a lot of credit here as well, because they have, in terms of quality and players and everything, they in paper they might have the better team. But I agree with the fact that Barcelona are the best team in La Liga so far, or the ones that play in the better way. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting clash. I also think that this Real Madrid is the perfect opponent for Barcelona, because Barcelona have a really risky approach. The defensive line is so high. And yeah, with Mbappe and Vinicius, I wonder how is Flick going to adapt to that, if he's going to adapt, or if he's going to stay playing with this sort of approach, going all out. Because I don't think that Barcelona has anyone who can match Vinicius or Mbappe in like big runs. So yeah, let's see how they cope with that. But yeah, the Clásico rise for me in a really interesting time. It can be either a turning point for Real Madrid, or it can be a reaffirmation for Barcelona that they are really up to something big this season.
Currently 3 points ahead of Real Madrid, the Catalans. Down the other end of the table, what a big game on Monday night as the bottom two, Las Palmas and Valencia, went at it at the Mestalla. And Las Palmas coming from behind to win 3-2 there, with all sorts of trouble afterwards with the angry Valencia fans. Valencia now bottom of the table, awaiting the players in the car park and getting chased away by, was it mounted police, Paul?
Yeah. Well, there's mounted police in practically every game in La Liga, especially if they are expected to be like high-tension games. Yeah, it was a game, I mean, it was not a great game, but it was a great game at the same time, because in terms of quality, you could tell that both teams were struggling and that were going to tense moment of the season. Las Palmas hadn't won a single game in La Liga until Monday, and Valencia had won only one, so the tension was there. You could see the nervy state of both teams at the start of it. But I think that Las Palmas has more quality in their team. But Valencia, in my opinion, they did overachieve last season because they saved the season with a really young squad, players coming through the youth ranks. Not really anyone that was really proven at this level. But Rubén Baraja, the former Valencia star, did a really, really good job. But now I think that probably they are feeling that they are short of quality, short of experience as well. And the tension inside the club is not helping as well. But Valencia is a nervy club, like in any sort of situation. I'm sure that James will know, because I think that that you lived in Valencia at some point, or that you were close to Valencia.
Did you live in Valencia, James?
No, I didn't. I've been before though.
I've been.
Oh yeah.
Can I
talk about them?
Apparently, it's the place where the best burger in the world is to be found at the moment.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's called the 100 or something.
And where do you find that in Valencia?
The 100.
It's called the 100. Yeah. What's so best about it?
I think it's because the meat comes from Galicia.
Okay.
Fair
and they
enough.
grind it every day, something
Nice.
like that. Yeah.
Well, if you go to Valencia, just don't eat a burger, go for a paella, please.
Right, also fair.
Yeah.
Also fair. Valencia very much in the frying pan themselves, much like their regional dish there, bottom of the table, 2 points from safety alongside Las Palmas. We have to celebrate perhaps your favourite player, Paul, Ollie McBurney, who contributed a gorgeous.
Really nice.
Tell us about the assist, Jules.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think he had that in his locker, to be fair. No offense to
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, but yeah.
He knows himself.
It was a lovely pass right outside of his boot.
Outside of his right foot from the left, and then Alberto Morero, who is like a
Alberto
really
Morero,
good,
top quality player.
Really good
top
young
quality player.
From Las Palmas can produce, obviously.
Yep.
As we've seen with Pedri, some very talented kid, and he is, and they great finish, good.
All right,
really
and huge celebration at the end. Ollie McBurney pulling out a shirt in a homage to his late Sheffield United teammate George Baldock. So a special moment for him, and then really troubled scenes afterwards as the fans wanted to express their displeasure, and the police decided to shut that down.
Yeah, it's a sort of displeasure that it's always directed to the ownership. You could hear chants of Peter Lim out since the second half, I would say, or like the middle of the first half, where Las Palmas started to play better. And yeah, it's basically this situation. Valencia fans really tired of the ownership. They believe that the lack of involvement and support in financial means is staggering in the club. We have to remember that they still have a new stadium in progress, which like the remodelations are basically stopped. Yeah, half finished. So it's a complicated situation in there.
It feels like a decade or so that place has been.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the exact years, but I'm sure that it's more than a decade.
Really?
Yeah. I'm sure it's more than a decade. If you go to Valencia, like when you go by train, you see like a stadium in there just waiting for someone to finish it. It's a bit depressing and sad for a big club, but that's the situation that they are in right now.
Paul, I imagine it was a big story in Spain, the fate of the Valencia fans who, while on honeymoon in Singapore, decided to drop by Peter Lim's residence and leave some notes on his front door and got arrested by Singapore police.
Oh, you don't want to get arrested by Singapore police.
Well, I don't. You're right.
I mean, any police.
Any police.
You know.
Don't break the rules, people.
No. There was a politician there recently who he'd maybe accepted a gift, kind of Keir Starmer style.
Or any person in a... Yeah.
And was given a long jail sentence because they're very strict in Singapore.
Very strict. But they also don't like people leaving.
If you litter or chewing gum on the pavement.
Yeah. Well, don't chew gum in Singapore.
Well, there you go. Just have chicken rice.
But yes, Paul, was there a big reaction to that in Spain?
No, there was a big reaction, big coverage in Valencia as well, because this fan was, as I was saying, expressing the sort of feeling that is quite common in Mestalla in every game that they play. The reaction and the coverage was big. If I can be honest, I don't know the exact outcome of this right now.
No, I don't know either.
You don't want to go out on a limb for it. Yeah.
Very, very nice. All right, excellent.
What I can say is that Spanish people doesn't have like a good record recently with Asian police, with Asian authorities.
Anyway, Bundesliga. Seb Stafford-Bloor joins us. Seb, how are you?
Doing well, Jimbo. How are you?
I am well too. What a week ahead for the German sides. Let's begin with a Barcelona-Bayern clash. How big a game is this in Bavaria?
Yeah, big, and they head into it feeling pretty good about themselves. A few pre-match notes from the weekend. Alexander Pavlovic not going to be there. Suffered a broken collarbone in the 4-0 win over Stuttgart on Saturday night. Jamal Musiala, don't know. But things are picking up in Bavaria. So we talked about that 4-0 win over Stuttgart. A couple of good things happened. Harry Kane scored. He went a week without scoring a goal in Germany, which counted as a crisis to some of the Red Tops. Answered with a hat-trick over the weekend. Played pretty well. Could have scored probably about 7, but not the point. Bayern survived the loss of Pavlovic after just 8 minutes. In came Paulinho. Another good thing, Jimbo, because a lot of people in Bavaria think that Bayern can't really function without Pavlovic's passing. He's the traffic cop. He's the one that drives them around the field and directs them and changes the points of attack. And without him, it's all a bit of a muddle. That was proven to be not quite true, or not as severe as suspected. The other thing, clean sheet. So the much maligned defensive duo of Kim Min-jae and David Meccano, who had a couple of shaky moments. Joshua Wagnerman might have scored before Harry Kane scored his first goal. So 0-0 in the first half. Wagnerman had a brilliant chance from inside the box, blazed over. He's really more of a fullback, so wrong guy in the wrong place, right? And then Bayern goes through out the other end and score. But pretty solid at the back within its context, relatively speaking, given what has followed. Kim and Jay, David Meccano, not a natural two, but looked as cohesive as they have done at any point this season. So good performance. So they're heading into it from a position of strength.
Indeed. And against the manager who was seen by many for company as his rival for the Bayern Munich job, Sebastian Hoeneß. The fact that they're facing a former Bayern manager in the released Hansi Flick and a former Bayern scoring legend in Robert Lewandowski, has that been a big talking point there?
Not really. I mean, Flick still obviously occupies a place in Bavarian hearts, was the right person at the right time, picked up the Niko Kovac mess and delivered a domestic and European treble. But I don't think, and this is probably a result of where Spanish football occurs in a kind of the German mind, hasn't really registered what he's doing in La Liga or Barcelona. And I don't think until there's a significant achievement, I don't think anybody is really going to pay it too much mind. And also, Barcelona are not the draw they used to be. Exciting team, very capable team, very gifted. But I haven't seen yet any sort of Flick returns to take on Bayern Munich. Time has passed. I think also the circumstances around his departure were political. A lot of people wanted Flick to stay. His relationship with Hasan Salihamidzic, for whatever reason, between the two of them, didn't function properly. And so it was kind of, I don't think there's any revenge. Salihamidzic, long gone. Bayern is very much not a different club, but the internal structure has completely changed since he left. Even in the last 18 months, it's changed dramatically. So there doesn't feel a lot of purchase in that, even though it's a nice story. And I think for Flick, a lot of people, particularly Bavarians, I think his failure with the German national team and the very public nature because of that notorious documentary, which kind of ridiculed him a little bit and parried him as a human being and made his man management look misguided. I think his success is generally seen as a good thing. Not this week, but beyond that.
Not this week. All right. Well, Bayern, as we were hearing before with Paul, have such an incredible record against Barcelona. We'll see if that continues. Meanwhile, big games for the other German sides in the Champions League, not least Leipzig, who will be taking on Liverpool, which is to an extent, can we construct this as a Klopp against his former side narrative?
Well, let's have a go. Let's have a go because Klopp is kind of overlording it, right? His role isn't very day to day. He doesn't have an influence on things like recruitment or tactics, obviously. He is an overseer. He's a bit more of a mentor. So he's not going to play at centre forward, for instance. Nevertheless, I think this happens at a really interesting time because the backlash against Klopp has been vicious. So obviously when it happened, predominantly the voices you heard were from Dortmund, because there was a sense of betrayal. There was a sense of someone, at the end of a Scooby-Doo when you take the mask off somebody and it's actually, Frankenstein's creature or something, or a ghoul. I mean, at its most melodramatic, that was kind of what it was like. It was like, oh, this is who you are, Jurgen.
Just to pull you up on that, so I think the mask was generally the ghoul or the Frankenstein monster, but it would be the old caretaker.
That would have made sense. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, if I'd said, for instance, that the caretaker was not the fictional character or not the kind of like the urban legend, but Yeah,
but I think the point stands anyway. The point stands.
I think the point I was trying to make, which admittedly got a little bit abstract, was that people were accusing Klopp of not being who he claimed to be, which I felt was a little bit melodramatic. And each their own, of course. But yeah, there was certainly a viciousness. Over the weekend, the Mainz fans had a go at it as well. They played RB Leipzig. Leipzig came to Mainz, won 2-0, played pretty well. And played a lot better than they have done in recent weeks too. So that's significant for Liverpool. But there were a lot of banners in the home end, created by the Ultras, flown by the Ultras, and pretty much continuing that theme of you've turned into what you stood against. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it.
Mainz, where Klopp, of course, made his
where he started, where he transitioned from being a kind of a journeyman defender to taking the first steps to becoming Jurgen Klopp in capital letters.
RB Leipzig need a win after losing at home to 10-man Juventus in their last Champions League fixture. They are currently level with Bayern at the top of the table, or at least level on points. But the other game we should really focus on, though, from the midweek matches, is that Champions League final rematch, Real Madrid against Borussia Dortmund. A Dortmund side that I imagine go into this game looking maybe to answer some of the regrets they have from the Champions League final last summer.
Because it's very strange, because last season Dortmund were two teams, weren't they? They were the Bundesliga also ran, who huffed and puffed and limped eventually to fifth place and were completely irrelevant to the title picture. And the Champions League side, who came to life and looked like their selves from 10 years ago in the Champions League, against Atletico Madrid, PSG. They needed a bit of luck along the way, but they still got to the final and they played very well. So there is that aspect of not revenge, but let's have another great night under the Westfalenstadion lights, and it will be a terrific occasion. At the same time, it feels like the game itself feels like a little bit of a break, a little bit of a relief from matters in the Bundesliga, because it's been a funny old start for Nuri Sahin, Jimbo. Like if Dortmund were two teams last season, it feels like they're three or four this. They're fragile and imbalanced and frustrating. They're full of all the same individual mistakes that Sahin inherited from Edin Terzic, and which Terzic was kind of beaten with a stick for, because it was the kind of the cultural around him. He can't fix these things. He's not tactically developed enough. He can't create a cohesive system that allows Dortmund to be Dortmund, the Dortmund that Klopp built and that fans recognize and are comfortable with. Sahin, there are signs that the attacking football is being revived. He is very aggressive in his thinking. They sometimes attack with 5 or 6 players, and a lot of their attacking football is very watchable. Serhou Guirassy, signed over the summer from Stuttgart, has really made a difference to the way they attack, because he's both a more dangerous forward, a more technically gifted one, but they can also do more with him and the players around him. Your kind of Karim Adeyemi's and your Donny Marlins and Jamie Gittins, who's had a really good season in moments. They're able to come alive. Julian Brandt is having good moments. At the same time, that attacking power, which is great to watch, also feels like it's built on sand. And so you have bizarre games like going 2-0 down to Bochum, nearly 3, but then roaring back to win 4-2. Most recently, Friday night, they played St. Pauli, who are a tough nut to crack, but 2-1 at home, needing a very late Guirassy goal to win that game. Not very convincing. And so Sahin, unfortunately, because he was promoted from within Terzic's staff, it doesn't feel like he's been given that kind of new era latitude to kind of try things and develop and have bad moments. Look, like all coaches do, right? When they take new positions and they try things, and they're also trying to deal with the fact that that squad isn't really built for him, and there are going to be players moving on and coming in and all sorts. So it feels like less 5, 6, 7 games into a new cycle, and more in the way that he's being treated, kind of because he's been at the club since January, like he's 9-10 months into his tenure, which is not fair at all. But that's where they are. They're in a big old muddle. You don't know what to expect from them. They could be swept aside by Real, or they could have a lot of power and blow them away. I could see either thing happening, really.
Okay. Guirassy, you mentioned with the winner against St. Pauli. That's now 12 goals in his last 8 games for club and country. Ooh, keep an eye on him. So before you go, I want to ask you about Union Berlin, because there you have Bayern and RB Leipzig top of the table, but not far behind them in 4th place are Union Berlin. Now, Union Berlin a couple of seasons ago were revelations of the Bundesliga and German football in general. And then last season, they became a kind of a scary story that sporting directors would tell their players or something. 12 straight defeats. They went 4 months without a win. They almost became the laughingstock of the continent. How have they now bounced back? Is it just the fact that they're not playing in Europe?
No, I think a lot of it is attributable to Blaise Svensson, who is a wonderful coach. Just a really magnetic personality, but fundamentally, just when a coach's personality and a team's identity just perfectly fit each other. So to me, Union are a classic counterpuncher. They are an underdog. And it's interesting that you mentioned last season, because it felt as if what happened is all of a sudden this underdog story who battled bankruptcy and seemed condemned to live forever in the Zweite Liga, got promoted, got into the Champions League. And then one day you're sat at the Alte Försterei and there's Leonardo Bonucci warming up on the sideline. I remember actually being there for that day when he didn't make his debut, but he was on the side of the pitch warming up, and you just thought, that's very, very strange. And you've got sort of multi-million-pound signings dotted around the pitch, and the chemistry, the kind of collective, all in this together it felt, and this is theory, it felt diluted by, you've got the players who delivered this and have been battling and who have helped the side out of the Zweite Liga into the Bundesliga. And then in a few cases, their pitch time is going to players who have been parachuted in as a result of that success. And that's not unique to Union, because I think that's a problem anytime you make a quantum leap in the game. That's the result of it. And it's a very, very hard temptation to resist. But what Svensson has been able to do is he's revived himself. The coach who left Mainz, I mean, he was previously there, and he built his name as a kind of like not coincidentally at Mainz, Klopp's former club, Tuchel's former club, as a counter press, as someone who has immaculately coached pressing, players who play in exactly the way he wants to. He's come in and he's been able to replicate that very, very quickly. He ran out of energy at Mainz. That's true. Like he lost his kind of spirit for the job, but he looks like he very much again looks like someone that's destined for the top of the game, and he's done a wonderful job. What's really interesting about the Champions League season is I think if you ask a lot of Union Berlin fans, they'd never want to go there again for a couple of reasons. Like they didn't much care for playing at the Olympia Stadium. They wanted to experience Champions League football at their own home, which is right in the woods in East Berlin. It's very atmospheric. It was built by their own fans, so there's a lot of symbolism there. But also there's this sense that Union Berlin as a club, they belong as not quite at the top level, and they prefer it that way, which is a very unique situation in kind of modern football where it's all about aspiration and achievement. But that does seem to be the case.
Fascinating stuff. All right, well, we'll see how they get on next weekend in the Bundesliga, and then you'll be back to tell us all about that and much more. Seb Stafford-Bloor. Woohoo! Jules, Liga up next. Jules, little team called Paris Saint-Germain, back on top of Liga this weekend after they beat Strasbourg, and Monaco only drew.
Yeah, Monaco drew on Friday night against Lille in a game that they dominated and should have won, really. But Lille have this really good goalkeeper called Lucas Chevalier, who we mentioned before, who's 23 years old and really outstanding. The next, I don't know, Marc Maignan, Hugo Lloris, whatever, and the next one probably to leave that club for quite a lot of money to go somewhere, probably in Serie A, because they seem to buy all the Lille players through the years, you know.
Yeah. Milan do.
Milan do. And Napoli do as well. But yeah, so that denied Monaco and finished it 0-0. And then PSG, as you said, won 4-2. I said 4-1, I think earlier. Won 4-2 against
4-2 against Liam Rosenior's Strasbourg.
Who played a bit too much.
You think?
Yeah, they just didn't.
Too much football.
But they could have adapted a little bit and said, you know what, against PSG, if you play and you will get exposed. But they still played and they played their game, which is, I think, a credit to him and to his team. It's just that the level then was too hard for them in a game like that. So
Bradley Barcola continuing his brilliant season.
Yeah, he was outstanding. Remember, he had a little dip of form and people were a bit like, oh, what's going on? Is it going to last or not? And he's been really good for the last few games. He was outstanding in a game like this where, again, because there's so much space for him, because the opposition plays so much, it's even easier. So it was really good. And so we're really, to be fair, the whole PSG team with a lot of changes. We mentioned Mayulu, the 18-year-old who scored. Zaire Emery played the right back, for example. So Luis Enrique rotating a lot and being very happy with the performance. Even if they conceded 2 goals, they were still very happy. They could have scored 6 or 7, to be fair, too.
Okay. He's just agreed a new deal with the club until summer 2007. Do you approve?
Yeah, so it's a 2-year extension. So he signed a 2-year deal when he arrived, which I think he was happy with. And the club were happy with just a shorter deal, if you want, and see what happened. And now, even if there's still some criticism back home in the sense that we saw against Arsenal that they're still a long way away from where we thought they would be now after 18 months of Luis Enrique. But he's very happy with the progress of this young team. And the club are very happy with him, so they're going to continue with him and in this kind of direction with youth and developing a style of football without a superstar to see how far they can go, especially in the Champions League.
In Champions League, which so far seen them shade a narrow 1-0 win over Girona and then lose 2-0 to Arsenal. And then coming up this weekend, we've got the PSG, PSV, the pissing contest, if you want. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it. Starting a really tough run of games, actually, because you got PSV, you got Marseille, as you mentioned, next Sunday. Then Lens. Will Still's Lens.
Yeah, still unbeaten.
And Atletico Madrid then.
Yeah, and then Bayern. I think the next.
And then Bayern?
Yeah, Bayern is the next.
Madness.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So it'll be tough. And I think it's good to see where they are. So we saw against Arsenal, especially in the first half, where they really struggled. And they had no Dembele because of him being dropped by Luis Enrique for ill-discipline. But it would be very good to see, especially away at Bayern, for example, more than at home to Atletico, but away at Bayern, or even away at Marseille, the Zerbi's Marseille, how they deal with, high press from the opposition or intensity. in terms of efficiency in both boxes. Donnarumma in goal, where we still have a bit of question marks on crosses, for example. So all those things, set pieces, all those things would be very good to see. I think there's not good enough to be Bayern away, for example. They're probably still good enough to be Atletico at home and to go to Marseille and win on Sunday too. But yeah, it'd be very interesting to see.
Okay. Lille, meanwhile, after the 0-0 with Monaco, take on Atletico Madrid. Yeah. Can they get an en plein of victories over Madrid sides?
What's en plein? No, it's just to tell you the real word.
Oh, what is it?
You mean what do you mean?
Well, we say en plein to mean full house.
Oh, full house.
Yeah. What is en plein then?
En plein. Yeah. It doesn't mean anything.
You're kidding? All this time?
So, plein is like loads of. So plein de loads of goals, plein de buts.
Oui.
But en plein, no.
Really?
I don't think so. Yeah.
It's used in Italian, isn't
it?
As a
maybe
French...
it's an Italian thing.
No, but it's imported from France.
And in England, do we use that as well?
It's spelled E-N and then new word, P-L-E-I-N.
E.
Yeah, so that's...
Isn't there an E on the end?
No.
Okay, no N.
Plein would be no. But, yeah, I don't know.
What would you say in French, then? A full house.
Yeah.
Un full house.
Italians like to use sur place as well, no?
Oh, yeah.
Place. Yeah. I don't know, like un sans faute, we would say probably. Sans faute as in like sans faute, no mistakes. Faute, no mistakes. So.
But anyway, basically just do both Madrid sides in consecutive Champions League matches.
Which would be incredible. And we said the Real Madrid game was the biggest game of pretty much of their history.
Right.
And because they won it, the biggest win ever for them.
And now
that would be even more special to have Griezmann and Diego Simeone coming to Lille again.
And let's go on the road and not that special.
No, I don't think so. And even as we said, this weekend I don't think they were that great either. And they seem to be more reactive than proactive anyway, or all in all. So I think Lille have a great chance. And they are on great form, even if they only drew at the weekend against Monaco and they were under pressure. They were away from home. This time at home, they've been outstanding. So
and they've got that player Chevalier.
Yeah, Chevalier in goal, which, again...
We've got a Chevalier, haven't we?
I knew this was coming.
We have two Chevaliers.
Chevaliers.
Which I'm very honoured to share a table with you.
Tick. Nice. Brest.
Yes.
Have won both of their games so far in the Champions League.
That's right.
They're sharing the lead in this newfangled league format.
Yeah.
And they take on Bayer Leverkusen in Guingamp.
Yeah, at the Rue de Rue Stadium, which we learned this weekend that if they qualify, so they're playing their 4 home games in Guingamp, an hour down the road from Brest.
Yep.
They won't be allowed to play the last 16 round or 32 if they go through the playoff in Guingamp. So they will have to play in another stadium if they make it to the knockout stages, which is completely bonkers. Why would UEFA allow the Guingamp stadium to be okay for this league phase, but then not for the knockout stage? So they will have to play probably in Rennes if they qualify. So they will have been in 3 different home stadiums, if you want, through the season, which is, again, a bit crazy.
I think Atalanta kind of had to do that because initially, I might be getting this wrong, I think they played some of their Champions League games in Sassuolo.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sassuolo, but in Reggio Emilia. And then San Siro. And then,
you're right, maybe then.
And then they only came back to what is now the Gevis Stadium when it was sort of under reconstruction. So I think that's about right.
Yeah.
Only other one would be Shakhtar for obvious different reasons.
Yeah, but I guess
Dynamo Kiev as well.
UEFA want even bigger stadiums when it comes to the knockout stages.
I imagine.
But I find that a bit strange.
Go figure. All right, well, we're counting down, amongst other things, to Le Classique at the weekend. Marseille 5-0 winners this weekend in preparation for that against bottom of the table Montpellier, immediately after which the manager, Michel de Zakarian, got fired live on TV.
Pretty much, yeah. Laurent Nicolin, who's the owner and the president of Montpellier, telling him and then speaking to the press and saying, like, I've just told him that he was sacked.
Oh.
He also said, I told the players, you got your manager sacked.
Okay,
which is fair. And he expects a reaction. As well, the new head coach of Montpellier. It's one of your favorites from last season.
Oh.
Yeah. No other than Jean-Louis Joe Biden Gasset.
He
must be now 80 years old or something since last year.
Had such an amazing impact at Marseille when he came
at the start,
in.
And
at
then
the start,
impact,
yeah. Afterwards, not so much.
Then he got tired.
He had to step down.
So they finished 8th. But he has a long history with Montpellier.
Yeah.
I think he played there. He coached there before. He was also probably like an advisor to Nicolas dads, who built the club and created the club 50 years ago. So yeah, Gasset is back. Personally, I'm not sure how good of the decision this. We will see, I guess. But he's good for cuddling up with the players.
Right. Yeah.
Joe Biden. That's why he does. He's a big cuddler. He's very sweet and everything.
Right.
He can be tough at times, I guess, and that's probably what they need. In French, we say câlinotherapie, so like a cuddling therapy, plein of cuddles.
Yeah.
So let's see if it works. I'm not too convinced because I think they lack a lot of talent.
Well, there's a lot of teams down that, and they are bottom, but they are just 2 points from safety, so we shall see.
That is true.
Quick mention for Wilsils Lens, who maintained their unbeaten record. They were 2-0 winners at Saint-Étienne.
Yeah.
And also for Lyon, who have now gone 5 wins in a row, with a 4-0 win over Le Havre this weekend.
They were good. They were super clinical.
Yeah.
They have something. And Luca Perry in goal, the Brazilian goalkeeper, was outstanding with his distribution, with his feet, with his hand, all good. Lacazette scored his first goal of the season, which I think was good for him because it's quite late in the season. And they're now coming back towards the top of the table, which is very, very good. And Le Havre, they're in crisis now. And what James said about Cagliari and going to the Ultras, we had similar scenes where the fans were not happy at all. No, which you can understand.
Okay. Let's wrap there on Liga. Is there anything else we should know, Jules? Let's roll in some Serie A content next. James, Derby of Italy next weekend.
Woo!
That's right. Moving on.
The 0-0 draw.
I mean, it could be because Juve, they don't concede goals, do they? How many goals they conceded so far this season?
Only one in the league.
One.
And that was Cagliari.
Madness.
Yeah.
Sully the Flamingo had something to celebrate. I mean, it's a different story in the Champions League where they've conceded in both games. But they've won both those games.
What a magnificent performance last time out when they went down to 10 men away to RB Leipzig, but came back to win it.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, an epic performance that many Juventus fans felt they'd been lacking in Europe for some time.
And they've got another German opponent this time around as they take on Stuttgart.
Yeah, they feel that in the Champions League, teams are more aggressive, come on to them. Whereas in Serie A, teams defend in a deep block. And Juventus have found that hard to break down so far, which is why they haven't scored as many goals as they would have liked in the league. And you mentioned this Derby d'Italia coming up. Obviously, it's going to be a big game, not only for the history and tradition, bitterest rivalry in the country, but Thiago Motta, treble winner with Inter. Someone so associated with Inter's finest hour. Him being sent off because Sergi Busquets rolled around and played peekaboo with his. But there was some fear that culturally Thiago Motta would never be accepted at Juventus because of his past with Inter. And instead, I was at the club on Thursday.
It's a lovely piece with Timothy Weah.
Yeah, and the vibes were very good.
Very good.
Young team. I don't think there's much scope for Paul Pogba to come back. Sorry, Jules. But they play Stuttgart tomorrow. But
Wednesday, yep.
But they won at the weekend. They're still undefeated in the league. And, I mean, they played Lazio, which was another big test. I mean, they've probably had a harder fixture list than Napoli, certainly, because Conte keeps pointing out how Napoli have had it pretty easy fixture-wise. But Juventus have played Napoli, played Roma, played Lazio. Lazio were one of the form teams going into this weekend. They went down to 10 men early after a spectacular move from Juve, which kind of released their centre-back, Pierre Kalulu, like he was a centre-forward. And Kalulu got his former Milan teammate, Alessio Romagnoli, sent off. But then Juventus took ages and ages and ages to find the only goal of the game, which was an own goal. And so they were kind of the symbols of this weekend in Serie A, which was cortissimo muso, which is like it's an old Allegri saying, because Allegri is a big fan of horse racing, about how you only win by a nose.
Right.
And all the big teams won by a nose.
Right.
Yeah, Napoli won in Empoli with a penalty, the only goal of the game. Milan won 1-0 against Udinese. They were down to 10 men for an hour, and they kind of really had to grind that out. Inter only won by a single goal against Roma as
Good
well.
goal, though.
Lovely goal from Lautaro. But, sort of Inter having to win in attritional circumstances, because before the game, their chief executive, Beppe Marotta, he's their president now, Beppe Marotta, he complained, too many games in football. The calendar's ridiculous. We keep losing players to injury. We lost Zielinski on international break. We lost Aslani on international break. The guys who would be backing up their midfield. And then 5 minutes into the game, Çalhanoğlu has to go off. Then Acerbi has to go off for 26 minutes. And so Inter had to really kind of dig deep in that game. And at the final whistle, even though Roma were quite sterile, you saw Inter players just collapse to the ground, sort of exhausted, really. Which, again, is a recurrent theme in the football discourse.
Well, yeah, as is Roma problems under Ivan Juric, of course.
Yeah, some memes going around of Claudio Ranieri kind of peering over Ivan Juric's shoulder, whether Claudio would come out of retirement to do another kind of interim management job with Roma remains to be seen. Remember, he said he would only basically do an international job after he did so well with Greece all those years ago.
Yeah.
Juric, I think it's 1 win in 5. He felt that they played well against Inter, but again, this was one of the big debates in Italy sort of generally over the weekend, was like how not enough teams are passing forward, not enough teams are players sort of attempting dribbles. You had Paulo Dybala in this game essentially man-marking a centre-back, Alessandro Bastoni, rather than sort of being told, Paulo, you just stay where you are and try and create, make something happen for us in the final third. Instead, you've got Dybala sort of tracking back into his own half, and people saying that's just too negative. So, but yeah, the new manager bounce has not really happened at Roma. And still these ongoing protests against the Friedkins, who obviously are seeking regulatory approval, Premier League approval from the Premier League for their takeover of Everton.
Indeed so. All right, Derby of Italy, Derby d'Italia coming up next weekend, and it is big, not least because Inter and Juventus separated by just 1 point in the table in La Classifica right now. The two teams, Inter 2 points behind Napoli, the leaders. Juve a win off the top. Napoli beating, as you mentioned earlier, Empoli 1-0 with a penalty from Kvaratskhelia. He's now on 15 goals scored or assisted in 2024. But perhaps the more exciting statistic is that for the last 15 minutes of this match, we had unprecedented scenes there at the Castellani.
In what sense?
There were 3 Scottish players on the field for the first time.
For the first time
in
ever.
Serie A history.
Really?
Liam Henderson.
Liam Henderson came on for Empoli.
Yeah.
McTominay and Billy Gilmour.
Gilmour, who had his first start of the season.
He did, and Conte felt he was a bit timid in the first half, and was too mindful of not giving the ball away when they needed to be a bit more intrepid in their passing. And Conte, even though they won, he wasn't really impressed with his team.
Right.
He felt, he said, I've been giving you all these warnings how Empoli have been so good this season. And Empoli had not conceded a single goal at home all year. They only lost for the first time in their last game against Lazio, and that was late. So Empoli have been surprisingly good this season. But so Conte was kind of saying, you all think we've had it easy, and yes, okay, our fixture list has been relatively kind of flat and downhill. But there are no easy games in Serie A.
There might be one coming up for them next weekend because they're going to be at home to Lecce. Lecce, who
6-0.
this weekend played Fiorentina. I know I'm laughing.
No, don't laugh.
It's not funny.
My middle son loves Lecce. That's his Italian team. Yeah, we don't know why, but he's got shirts, everything.
Giallorossi.
Maybe all those French players that they have, not that they're very good, but loads of French influence already at Lecce.
Well, Lecce hosted Fiorentina this weekend, and I'm sure your son did not enjoy the outcome of that game.
All, no.
But the Fiorentina fans must have, because they got their biggest win in an away game since 1966. It was a 6-0 win at the Via del Mare. Woof.
Yeah, 5 Italian goal scorers in this game as well. Unlikely ones as well, like Danilo Cataldi, who's kind of came through the ranks at Lazio and moved to Fiorentina this summer. And things, Palladino starting to cook after being under a lot of pressure upon taking over from Vincenzo Italiano. But I feel for Lecce because Luca Gotti, I mean, he's one of the most handsome coaches.
You think?
In Serie A. Yeah, he's kind of got that rugged 50s look. Sort of, he used to be an assistant to Maurizio Sarri. And when Sarri left Chelsea, Luca Gotti's like a big motorcycling fan. And he's got like several Ducatis.
Nice.
And he rode all the way back from Battersea to his place in, I think, it's near the Veneto, I think.
Right.
On his Ducati.
That's nice.
And
that's long.
And the best thing, and I think this is why Lecce haven't sacked him so far, is because he saved their sporting director, Pantaleo Corvino, from a burning building in the summer.
Oh, yeah. What a story.
Yeah, I remember that.
So yeah. Gottismo is like a big thing on online, like how he is just like this. He's just the man we all aspire to be in our sort of 50s. Even when he's losing 6-0.
Yeah. Well,
I love him.
Well,
he gave me one of the best interviews that I've ever done.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it was, I think it was maybe during COVID, and he was in charge of Udinese at the time, where he got done for having like a COVID sort of party where he had some people around to his house. It might be some nice women, I don't know, but he went on about how he'd been reading about Shackleton.
Okay.
And
the Polar Explorer.
Yes, and what a big inspiration.
Nice.
Shackleton was.
Well, you know what? I think the qualities of leadership they apply in all kinds of disciplines, don't they?
So I love Luca Gotti.
Okay.
All right.
Very much. I ride for that guy.
All right. They're very much down the. Can I do a South Pole night? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right. Quick word on what awaits midweek. Juventus against Stuttgart, as we mentioned. Stuttgart yet to win in the Champions League this season. Juve yet to drop any points at all.
Yeah.
You've also got Aston Villa against Bologna, the draw specialist Bologna.
Yeah.
What do you think about their chances?
Well, I mean, they played well at Anfield, even though they ended up losing. And I think that gave them a lot of confidence that against these Premier League sides that they can, if not match them, then play tight games. But yeah, I mean, they keep drawing.
They were 2-0 up this weekend away at Genoa.
Yeah. Against the Genoa side, I mean, Genoa are caught up in this kind of 777 thing, which no one in Italy seems to be talking about. But sort of 777 have all these legal problems in the US, which is why sort of Everton looked like it was going to be sold to them, and then it's not because they can't do it. But yeah, I mean, Genoa sold all of their best players in the summer. You think of Retegui, went to Atalanta, Goodmanson went to Fiorentina. Even last January, Draguzin went to Spurs. So Gilardino's he's got a really tough job. So you think if you're 2-0 up against Genoa, you're going to win that game. So it was poor, really, from Bologna that they didn't. And I wouldn't say he's under pressure. I think, even their sporting director, Marco Di Vaio, said, look, completely different vibe within the club now. It doesn't mean that we're going to qualify for Europe again, just because we did last time. But yeah, I think Villa is, obviously Villa have got maximum points in the Champions League so far. Beat Bayern.
Yeah.
So,
looks a tough one.
But Lewis Ferguson is back.
Oh.
I think he's back in the squad, which is big because he would have loved to have been at Anfield a few weeks ago. So Ferguson being out, I think is maybe one of the stories why Bologna haven't exactly pulled up any trees so far.
Other Italian sides, Inter are going to be away at struggling young boys. Yeah. Milan take on Bruges, and Atalanta host Celtic. Celtic, who won 5-1. I think that was against young boys, wasn't it, their opening game? And then lost 7-1.
Yeah, so what's it going to be this time around?
I don't know. But at the Goes Stadium, Atalanta in form, 2-0 winners against Venezia this weekend, as you mentioned. Retegui with a lovely goal. He's now on 8 goals in 8 league games this season and scoring for Italy as well. He's on fire.
Yeah. A lot of people sort of drawing comparisons like what kind of player is he? Is he just like another Immobile? Is that what his game resembles? I think Luca Macchigiani on TV the other day was saying sort of Pippo Inzaghi. In that, he's a very raw player that like a lot of his teammates would say, he's not really a footballer. But if you get him in the penalty area, non sbaglia mai.
Non sbaglia mai.
Never makes a mistake. Always hits the target.
Right.
Apart from when he's taking penalties against Arsenal. and yeah, looks like he's really developing as a player. Yeah, this is a guy Roberto Mancini basically called up whilst he was playing in Argentina. So just really goes to show, like, to be fair to Mancho, who seems to be on the brink of the sack with Saudi Arabia at the moment. Yeah, great eye for a player, Mancho, because Retegui has really started to deliver. Okay. He's already scored as many goals, if not more goals, than he did all of last year with Genoa. So,
wow.
Chapeau.
Playing in a Gasperini
Chapeau's
side.
French.
Chapeau.
They actually
Chapeau.
use that.
Do you use that?
Chapeau.
Yeah.
Sometimes we say, chapeau.
Very nice.
Last thing was the Como stuff with Hugh Grant.
Oh, yeah.
Superstars everywhere on the page of the page.
Yeah, exactly what Jules is saying. I mean, it was a 1-1 draw, but it was really good fun.
Was Udinese?
Yeah, no, Parma.
Oh, so with Parma. Parma took the lead, and late on, Como with the...
Yeah, but some super stuff going on. I mean, like, Parma have got this young French striker, Antoine Bonny, who is, I think, a really talented player.
Paris born and bred.
He scored a kind of one of those classic goals which is associated with Parma, which you would say is a goal alla Bettiga, kind of back heel, but Crespo used to do it.
Yeah.
And he did a beautiful one against Como. And then they've got this kid, Bernabe, who plays in midfield, who hit the bar with a free kick. Lovely playmaker, Bernabe. And then Como with this Nico Paz.
He's a lovely player.
Nico Paz.
He made his Argentina debut as well.
Signed from Real Madrid. I mean, special player. Like every game he plays, he does something wild. So yeah, Hugh Grant really celebrated Nico Paz's goal. I mean, on his feet, fist pumping. I mean, he's a Fulham fan, Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he loved that. He would love to see Nico Paz at Craven Cottage, by the looks of it.
I guess Hugh Grant has a place in Como as well, right? That's why he was there.
I'm not sure. I mean, the guys who own Como are so wealthy.
Yeah.
And they've got, I mean, they made their money selling these clove cigarettes in Asia, which is not great. But they've diversified into lots of different things, like football. But like they have their own TV channel, Mola, which is the one that Paul Dempsey commentates on a lot.
Yeah, they have the Premier League rights, haven't they?
I think they have other media sort of entertainment kind of things. So whether they're funding, maybe Andrew Garfield's going to play Cesc in the story about Como getting.
Who would Hugh Grant play? Ivan Gotti, maybe.
Not Luca Gotti.
Sorry, Luca Gotti, maybe.
Yeah, on the sidelines of struggling Lecce as Como beat Lecce 6-0 to qualify for the Europa League. Conference League.
Maybe so. All right, well, if you fancy a bit of Como, as we mentioned earlier, make them part of your busy week of football watching, because they do take on Torino in Turin on Friday night. Woof. We'll find out maybe how that goes when we get together.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday,
Just
Monday,
to finish,
Tuesday?
did you see the Ajax Heracles game where the goals from the halfway line from Heracles?
I didn't see
Mario
that.
Engels. Lovely.
Okay, I
really
did see this. Did you see Kostas Manolas score 5 goals?
Oh, yeah.
What? In Greece.
What?
Yeah.
I can't remember or pronounce the team he was playing for, but Manolas, who obviously gave us that great night, the Romontada, scored as a centre-back, scored 5 goals in Greece.
Incredible.
Just amazing.
There was another goal from the halfway line in second division, I think, in the Dutch leagues.
Wow.
Well. So yeah, loads of fun. I think Osimhen scored an overhead kick too this weekend.
Yes.
That was
Beautiful
lovely.
goal. Beautiful goal.
Beautiful goal. Talking about Ajax and obviously Jordan Henderson, as you know, the new Johan Cruyff.
Yeah.
We went to France this weekend, and as we were about to put the car on the...
Was he at the breakfast bar as
Eurotunnel?
well?
No, but there was we were driving past like a car with like young English people on it, and they went, "Oh my God, this is Jordan Henderson."
About you?
Yeah.
That's why you hate him.
Please, so much more handsome than Jordan Henderson, please. So my wife and the kids, as you can imagine, just cracked all weekend. That was the joke.
Hendo Laurens.
Oh. And then later on at the passport check,
you roll down your window and spit
onto the tunnel. No, they drove by and they went, thumbs up and everything. I was
right.
like, okay, I'm sorry, it wasn't me. Jordan Henderson was being humiliated by a Heracles player throwing from the halfway line at the same time as we were at the Eurotunnel.
All right.
Oh, wow.
All right.
I thought that was a good story to finish.
It's an amazing story. There's no way we're topping that. So that's it for today's Solely Football Show. Listener, thank you so much for being with us right to the end. Hardcore. Love it. We're back next week. So do join us then. For now, many thanks to Paul and Seb, Jules and James, Rachel and producer Lucy in the booth. And we'll catch up with you soon. Enjoy the football. Bye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.